All right. Well, thank you for choosing this class for this session. We're going to go over Revit templates. If we could get the PowerPoint going up. That doesn't look right. Is that an extended display? Sorry about that. What's going on? Windows P. Oh yeah, it's on extend. There we go. We're good. All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go over creating Revit templates, and it's specifically talking about how we can use them with fabrication parts in Revit. Obviously you're seeing a theme at this year's Fabricators Forum and what software is really being covered, and that's, it's pushing so much towards the Revit side. And this class may be a little bit different in just the fact that, yeah, we're going to be looking specifically at fabrication parts in Revit, but really it's just basic Revit functionality that we're going to be looking at, Revit templates. So we'll get into the more of the nitty-gritty about what we're actually going to do, how we're going to apply these settings. And this class is going to be more actually spending time in Revit, actually clicking through and doing it. So we're not going to be looking at slides the whole time. Hopefully that will be a little bit more entertaining for you guys, certainly when inevitably something doesn't work, doing a live demo. So hopefully it won't be too bad. But let's look at, I guess, a little bit background on myself here first. I'm with Technical Sales International, product manager for them. So I kind of help steer, I guess, the way that we use the fabrication product, and especially with how we interact with our customers in that. Manage the support department there, so if anybody's used our support in the last 4 years, I've had some hand in that probably. So industry-wise, I guess I've been in this for about 14 years, 4 years with TSI, and the rest of that time at mechanical contractors, actually detailing and getting to utilize all these softwares. Started seeing Revit coming in, I guess, 2008, 2009, 2010, we started really seeing a lot more push on the Revit side, but until 2016 came out with the Revit integration, it was a lot harder to, well, it was less relevant for a mechanical contractor. So, let's see. In this class, we're going to go over Revit templates again. Specifically, we're going to be looking at title blocks, how to manage those, how to actually edit them, creating schedules, looking at tag families, and visibility graphics. So getting those service colors that you're using in AutoCAD with fabrication, getting those to carry through into Revit. Those title blocks that you spent so much time probably creating for AutoCAD, getting that information not transferred over, but recreated in Revit. So we're going to look at, again, the specifics on how we get that done. Now, I only have an hour, so we can't go too deep into everything, but hopefully get you a good idea of exactly, or the path on which you will follow in getting these things set up. I mean, who in here has set up a AutoCAD template for their company? I mean, it's right. How much time did you spend on that? Weeks, months, sometimes years in some cases, and there's a good chance that when you did create those, that was maybe more than 5 years ago. It's something that when you get right, you get to carry that information through, and it saves you time on every single job. So it's tedious, it's daunting to think about setting these up, but once you do, you know how valuable that can be for your workflow. So again, creating Revit templates, kind of look at the best practices, what to keep, what to get rid of, what kind of information we want in that template. Actually editing the title blocks. We'll look at creating a schedule specifically for fabrication parts, and then the visibility graphics. Let's see. So keeping things as light as possible. I mean, that's pretty much going to be a theme throughout any software. Anytime you use it, getting rid of information that you're not going to be using. Let's see here. Sorry. Yeah, here we go. So here's where I jump into Revit. I'm going to just start with a title block, and I thought there was going to be a podium. I apologize for sitting down on the job here, but let's see. It's about the only way I can really get in there. So right here, I'm actually in a Revit template right now, and this is just an RTE file. So to put it as simply as I can probably in relating it to something you're already using, like a DWT file, your AutoCAD template, this is going to be your Revit template file. Once you create this, this is what you'll build on. This is the kind of that template that you're going to create and use for every project probably moving forward. And you can create several different templates just depending on what type of trade. Again, it depends on kind of what you're doing now. Think about your workflow in AutoCAD and what you're doing there. So I'm actually going to open up a title block first. So application menu, if you're unsure of where your title blocks are, you can always look at your options and take a look at file locations. Your family template file path is going to be by default in C program data, Autodesk RVT, whatever year software you're using, family templates. So application menu, I'll just go ahead and open up. There we go, our title blocks. So these are other than the AU, these are the out-of-the-box, just default Revit templates that come with not templates, I'm sorry, keep saying templates, title block that come with Revit. It just depends really to how specific your company needs your title block to be. But if you can use existing information, that's less work that you're going to have to do. So if you can start with a default Revit template, there's no reason not to take advantage of the work that they've already done. So I'll go ahead and just open this up, and notice we're actually opening up an RFA. So this is a family just like so many of the other parts in Revit. Pretty much everything we're going to be modifying today is some type of family. So I'll go ahead and open that up. All right, and editing the title block is really just as simple, really, as it would be in AutoCAD. Some of the tools are a little bit different, but you can see we have our Create tab. We have reference lines and lines. That's going to be how we're creating new separations and partitions in the title block. The big difference, I think, in Revit templates is that we can take advantage of labels to populate our title block. Instead of just using M-text or maybe some kind of, so with fabrication you can use C-text and other ways to automatically populate the information in your title block. But with Revit, we're able to take advantage of these labels. So if you click on this, you can see it's actually a label. So these labels just represent just various bits of information within, whether it's within your project information, within a family, just a family parameter. Just depends on what we're trying to report on, where we are. Tags use labels as well. We'll actually edit some tags here in a little bit. Just want to make sure that I'm not going too far on time. So if we look at the actual label, like I said, let's look at project name, because I believe in my example, I actually have project name in my project information filled out. So we can see that it's a tag of project name with an actual label. And if we edit the label information, you can actually see then what parameter or what information it's going to be pulling. So again, in this case, it's pulling from or project information, and we'll look at that specifically once I save out of this template. If I wanted to add information, it would be as simple as inserting a new label, giving it a name, just something that's representative of what it's going to be reporting on, and then pulling in the information. Again, this project name, it's just take it from the left-hand column, put it in the right-hand column, and it's going to report on that information. If you're familiar with building reports in Fabrication, CAD-MEP, STMEP, CAMDuct, it's kind of the same concept here. It's pulling in the information from the available objects and putting that in what you're going to be reporting on. So project name in this case, like I said, we'll pay attention to kind of how that fills in once I save this template and bring it in to a drawing or to a Revit project. So hit OK there. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so once we've edited that information or added the information, I should have pointed out too, we have our logo up here. Again, it's just as simple as deleting out what you don't want. It comes default with, I think, an Autodesk PNG image in there, and all you're needing to do here is go ahead and insert an image. It's drag and drop. Revit templates are just, in my opinion, so much easier. Title blocks so much easier to set up. Especially in understanding that Revit kind of works, everything's connected. Everything understands the relationship to something else in that project. Whereas in AutoCAD, it's much more manual. It does just what you say, you tell it to do. Revit wants to understand that whole project. All right, so I'll go ahead and save that. You can see, so we'll have some kind of a change represented here. Took that logo out and close that. So now when we go and use this sheet, I want to take a look at my manage here and project information. So you can see my project name, I filled that in with AU Revit template just so that it's something other than the default, so that we can see that it works. So maybe I'll just put, just to represent some other change, a live demo. This is probably where it's going to fail on me. No. So we'll go Sheets, create a new sheet. We're going to use a title block. Now, you notice I don't have my E1 30 by 42 AU title block, so I'm just going to go ahead and load that up. Let's see, title blocks, and I'm going to load in my AU. Go ahead and use that then as my sheet, pull in some information. I'll use my first floor mech. And you can see we do have that AU Revit templates live and no logo up in the corner. So those changes that I made to that title block are going to be reflected now every time I use it. So in thinking about families too, especially when we're talking about fabrication parts in Revit, we're going to need families just as much as we're going to need the ITMs. I think it was Kevin's second class this morning. He was saying pretty much you stick with the design elements, the actual families, as long as you can, and then convert it to those to the fabrication parts in Revit. Just because it's a lot easier to edit and move and push and pull and coordinate until you need to get to that design level or the fabrication level content. So sticking with, so again, we're going to be needing families, so you can't just go in and purge them all out. And the default mechanical templates actually give you a pretty decent, for generic. If you're not planning on making your systems. Now, this is from a contractor's point of view. Now, this could be very different from an engineering standpoint or from design build, just depending on what type of work you're doing. You may not need to build out your Revit systems to be as completely robust if you're going to be counting on fabrication services. So there's something to consider there too if you're looking to keep things, again, as light as possible. So, literally browsing families, kind of looking through what's in the defaults under families here, and looking for elements or families in there that for a fact you're not going to be using. You can either find that family, right-click and delete, or you can bring in everything you need to bring in, start building out your text styles, your text types, dim types, dimension types, all the families, all your standards that you're going to be using, and then use Purge Unused kind of at the end of it. Can be a very dangerous tool if you're not too careful, because I think by default it actually checks everything, and if it's not in your project, it's all gone. I see a lot of people smiling and nodding to that one, so sounds like maybe you've done that. I know I have. Let's see. Okay, so looking at, we'll kind of go through, perfect. So I'll look at dimension styles next. And again, looking at using your AutoCAD template kind of as a base point. can be good, but at the same time, again, I know in my experience, you tend to create a file or a template file, you use it, you start adding to it, you get more and more and more and more information in it, and you're using almost the same template file 5, maybe even 10 years later. It might have a lot of irrelevant information in it. So this could, making the transition into a new software, I think, could be a good opportunity to maybe even take a look back at what you're doing in your AutoCAD templates and not just trying to bring everything over, for your Revit side. It's just something to consider. It's a moment to take pause and look at your workflows. So yeah, dimension style. So what I'm actually going to do here is just match one up from AutoCAD and take that into Revit and just change the dim styles and types and fonts. So I think the one that I'll do it with, let's see. I'll just give this, I'll toggle size here. Hopefully that's coming through. Yeah, good. So it's giving me 6-inch and the service, PCWR. And it's using a very specific font. So I want to go in, take a look at my style. Again, here in AutoCAD. And I know that I'm using my TSI Anno. So that's going to be using a font of Roman S. And we'll kind of go from there. So if I want to come back into Revit, and depending on what type of tag I'm looking at, the nice thing about dimension styles or dimension types and text types in AutoCAD, the editing of them is very similar. So looking at my, let's see, I'll go to the Annotate tab. If we're looking at our dimensions, I can click the little drop down on the dimensions and choose what style of dimension I'm going to be editing. So I'll look at the linear dimension type first. So we have these, oh, whoops, I forgot to delete it out before. So I actually made this TSI Anno type. So again, not having to invent the wheel here, find one that maybe is very similar, because in this drop-down, these are just the default dimension styles that are already available, the dimension types. So pick one and edit it. I believe I just used a linear 3/32 aerial and duplicated that, renamed it TSI Anno. I changed the arrow mark to match what I have in AutoCAD using that TSI Anno text style with the Roman S, and there we are, and changed the text style or text font to Roman S. I'm able to go ahead and do the same thing for text. Clicking the little arrow to expand, we get the type properties. And again, there's not as many here, but I've gone in and just created. I've just picked probably the 3/32 aerial, clicked duplicate, renamed that to TSI Anno, changed my text style or the font to Roman S, and I'm matching up with my AutoCAD standards. So it's, again, this is very, I don't know, I don't want to say surface level, but it really is, it's just scratching the surface with what you're actually going to need to do and building out your templates, right? So let's see here. Text styles, dimension styles, annotation tags. So this one's fun. Again, taking advantage of labels with annotation tags. What's really nice about the Fabrication product, I thought anyway, is the ability to use C-text and then the size, elevation, number tags, pulling out information from a parameter or a value from within that ITM or RFA, sometimes in this case, and actually just displaying that information, not having to do an M-text or a D-text and actually fill in that information. Again, getting to use labels to actually populate some of this information. So let me put a piece of pipe in. Good. I have the PCWR service in here. Give that a little bit of a larger size. Easier to see. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and tag by category for this example. And I should get, good, this warning saying there's no no family for this, no tag, do I want to load one? And so now this is a fabrication part in Revit. It's an ITM, so we need to load a specific tag that's displaying information specifically designed, I guess, for the fabrication part in Revit. So I'll go ahead and click yes here. And I go to Annotations and Pipe. And again, out of the box, Revit defaults, we have these different fabrication pipe tags. I'll go ahead and modify one of these. Now, something that was brought up in Kevin's class this morning, when you're making your company standards, get them out of the templates, get them out of the default locations. I didn't do that for my example here. As soon as he said that this morning, I said I should probably do some work and change that, but just don't do what I'm doing here. Put it somewhere else, because yeah, reinstall, you're going to lose these tags. You know, you don't want to have to go, you know, pull out some kind of a utility to try to bring back deleted information. So I'll start with my size tag, just because I can compare this with what I have in AutoCAD right now. Same service that I have up, and so I'll use the size tag and just go ahead and hover over my pipe, and it's picking that 4-inch diameter. Maybe I should have done 6-inch, so it's really apples to apples here. There we go. And you can see here, since I did update the size of the pipe, the size of that, or the label or the tag updated the information as well. And that's the whole point of this. So let's look at this one versus what I have in AutoCAD. So in AutoCAD, I labeled it with 6 diameter symbol and then my system or service abbreviation, PCWR. And that's housed in your service in the abbreviation field. Upper right-hand corner, hopefully that's coming through. Yeah, good. So that's where it's pulling that information from. Now, the nice thing about, I think, well, I could be wrong. I don't think that was there on the first release of 2016. Certain information that, you know, isn't reportable still, and connectors, things like that. Now, there are some opportunities, yeah, through API, as we learned this morning, to pull out information that we can't get to just yet, but they're making a lot of progress. So let's duplicate this in Revit. So there are a couple ways to do this. We can actually go to our application menu and navigate to our family and actually open the tag family. You saw when I pulled that size tag in, fabrication pipe size tag in, you could actually see it's its own file. So it's not just some, you know, encrypted thing buried somewhere else. It's actually a file we can open up. Or I can double click on this and that'll open up the family so that I can edit it. Just like in the title blocks, and I click on this, you can see we're actually dealing with a label. It's a different category, so it's going to be reaching out for a different set of information. So clicking on Edit in Label, you can see that it's actually showing size. Now, if we kind of look down this list, you can get an idea of what information we can actually report on in this tag. So thinking about our AutoCAD tag, we had our 6-inch and then service abbreviation. We'll go ahead and scroll through this and see if we can find that right now. I know it exists. You got it? You see it? Oh, God. Okay, fabrication service abbreviation. Thank you. I knew that it didn't start with S, and I had the same issue the other day because I went down to S. Thank you. All right, so fabrication service abbreviation. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring that over. Again, bringing the information over from the left-hand column, putting it in the right-hand column to display that information. Now, I probably should have saved this family first. I did not, but I can do a save as now. Let's see. Save as family, and I'm actually going to overwrite this piping system abbreviation tag. That's the one that I had created earlier. It's going to really, I have it loaded into my other, so let me name it something new. There we go. I'll go ahead and close that since I've already saved it. And I can, from here, go ahead and load that in. So I'll go back to my Annotate tab, tag by category, click on my tags here. And for my fabrication pipe size tag, not loaded, so I'll go ahead and click Load Family up in that box. So I can actually load this in a number of ways, but since we're actually loading it in, trying to tag an object, might as well be through here. So annotations, pipe, and there we are. So there's my new tag, and you can actually see now that it's actually referencing that service abbreviation. And now when I tag, we're going to get that same information. Now it's showing units. You may want to turn that off if you're really, really trying to match up what we have in fabrication. But you can see how you're getting that information through. Again, it's taking it bit by bit, all those little things that you're using in AutoCAD every day, taking advantage of. It's creating those in Revit so that you can move forward and save time and not have to repeat all this information over and over and over. All right. Okay, so once you kind of have a good idea of what you're keeping, what you're getting rid of, again, Purge Unused. If you want to go through and cherry pick, like that template here, I can go ahead and right-click delete that if that's something I know I'm never going to use. If there's architectural elements and you're strictly plumbing, might not be a reason to keep it in there, especially if you're getting your projects from someone else that are already pre-populated or built out. So going up to the Manage tab, we have this Purge Unused option. And again, you want to be sure you know what you're getting yourself into with this one. Probably a good idea is just to click Check None as soon as you get in here, because anything, you can see that's 0. So if I click OK, nothing is getting purged out of this project. So everything I have in there now is going to stay. But if I check all, it's actually purging 262 items currently out. And that's really going to be everything that's not in this current project. Again, that can be good if you're really trying to slim things down, but also very bad because you could have spent hours and hours and hours, days, weeks, months populating this. And as soon as you click Purge Unused, if there's not an element in your drawing area, it's gone. Obviously, you could probably recover the file, but this is it's a good tool, but you do need to be careful with it. Okay, creating the fabrication part schedules. Again, the workflow that we're going to be going through here really doesn't change whether we're doing Revit families, ITMs. It's just the category that we're using to filter these items. And that's what's, I think, nice about, I guess, this topic is that it really does translate to all parts of Revit. So as you're trying to make that transition, it's important, obviously, not to learn only what you're going to be using, but learning the entire foundation of how a product works. It helps moving forward, and it helps, I guess, learning and understanding the way that a product works as a whole. Again, this being basic Revit, really, that functionality crosses over into multiple disciplines. So schedules, quantities, basically. That'll work. So going down to the schedules quantities in your project browser, right-clicking and new schedule quantities, and then picking the category that you're wanting to filter out. This one here, I have my filter list. I have mechanical and piping selected. You can. There's a lot more information in the in the architectural side, as you've seen. If you've ever tried to do any searching or any kind of internet research about trying to do something in Fab Parts in Revit or even Revit MEP, information is pretty slim. So you get an idea of how much more information there is for architecture and structure. But anyway, we're going to go down and look for the MEP fabrication Actually, I'll go ahead and highlight that too. The MEP fabrication containment for electrical, ductwork, obviously for ductwork, hangers, and pipework. So we're going to pick the schedule category that we're trying to report on. So obviously, well, I think the better one for this is going to be for the ductwork, since I do have more duct in here. So picking that, you can give this a new name if you want. Maybe I'll just do AU schedule. That should work for that. And clicking OK. We'll get this list. Again, very familiar format here, layout. It's just bringing what you want from the left-hand column over to the right, and this is going to be the information that displays for you in your schedule. So yeah, I'll talk about that. So there's a lot of information. You notice here, there's a lot of fields that are going to end up blank. And a trick that I use to learn what fields do what fields report on what, it's pretty straightforward. I guess it's nothing too, probably not a huge secret. But I'll go ahead and just select everything using Shift and bring it over to the right-hand column as simply a learning tool. Your schedule probably wouldn't do you any good for any practical purpose other than, again, trying to find out what information is there. So before I do that, I'll just bring over a few fields that I think would be useful for this example. So probably, if we're thinking about just a simple bill of materials, what's in this project? Just getting a good idea. We can probably start with family. Let's see here. Length probably wouldn't be a bad one. Let's see. Size, that's always good. So again, bringing that information over from the left-hand column, bringing it into the right. We'll just leave it at that for now. Just 3 categories, but you can see, it comes in, it's just reporting the information that's captured within that view. I don't have any filters applied to this one. So going back in, if I want to add more fields, it's just as easy as being within that schedule in the project browser and then selecting on the edit field. So again, if I didn't get it right the first time, going back into edit, it's not a big deal. Going through the different categories over here, they're just represented in tabs for filtering. There's a lot of fields that I wish were available for filtering that just aren't yet. Again, it's been talked about already today, but it's getting there. Again, whether or not that stuff will be added, but if you're familiar with the editing reports in fabrication, it's the same basic concept. We're just bringing it over the print object that we want to see, bring it over to the right-hand side, show the information, filter it, format it, make it look the way you want it to look. So not a whole lot to it. Now, talk about kind of that little trick. Again, it's probably not a huge secret, but what I will do is on this elbow, for example, every field in the properties that I could fill out, I filled out with a unique identifier. In this case, I just used 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just so that each of these fields is going to display just a different bit of information, so that when I go into my schedule and edit, I can just grab everything, bring it over into the right-hand column, say OK, and so my square elbow, as I'm looking through these fields, I know exactly what's being reported on from what field. And I also get a good idea of what's blank. There's a lot of blank fields you can see here. Some of it it's because it's not there, and some of it just, I don't know, maybe there's no link. I haven't actually explored every single object that can be brought in with a schedule. So again, creating schedules, and so thinking about what types of reports you're using in fabrication, what type of information are you needing to report on a regular basis? What's the purpose? Is it for purchasing? Is it to send out for, to get a quote from your local vendor? What types of schedules are you going to be using on 80, 90, 100% of your projects? Those are the types of schedules you're going to want to build out specifically for each project. And again, there's always going to be those reports that you're going to need occasionally. Maybe that's not the one for your standard Revit template. It just, again, it depends on how much information and how many variables there are. Does your firm do piping, plumbing, sheet metal, electrical? It just depends what type of information and how much you're going to have and need. I went through that. Okay, so the last bit we're going to cover here is applying those service colors to duct and pipe. We saw in some earlier examples today, the pipe and duct in the live examples were all shaded and colored. Well, not shaded, but colored. The lines were colored to match the fabrication services. So we can do this in a couple of ways. I mean, it's using filters no matter which way we do it, but using that in per view, or we can apply these to our view templates. It just depends on, I guess, how far we're going to want to take these. Now, I would say that it'd probably be beneficial to do them in your view templates. That way it's easier to apply to your individual views later on, or if you want to make a bigger change to a view rather than going in just to that view and editing, you can actually just apply the templates, the view templates attributes to that view. So we'll go, let's see, back into Revit here. This is pretty much where we'll stay. Close out of that. There we go. Go to the View tab. So you can see here, I have filters, and I have a few filters already set up. Things like domestic cold water, domestic hot water, these mechanical ones. These were default Revit. Again, I just started, when I created this template, I just started with the mechanical default template from Revit. I have added a couple others in here, HHWR, HHWS, and then end up applying those to a view template or to my visibility graphics later on. So I can add them here, or I can go into my view templates and manage my view templates and actually apply those to a specific view template again. So for this example, I'm going to apply these changes to the mechanical plan. So that's going to cover pretty much what's in my HVAC mechanical plan views. So in my filters, so my VG overrides for filters, click on Edit, and you can see I have those same filters already applied in here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new one for PCWR. So down here, I'm going to click on Edit New. I'm going to make a brand new filter. So I'm just going to give this a name as simply as I can. It was also discussed just a little bit, I think, in Kevin's second class today. The contains option did not exist before, which would make it so that you would need, and this will make sense here. If it doesn't make sense right now, I promise it will in a minute. Your service name in fabrication, most of them are going to contain, CHWR, HHWR, PCWR, something like that. But it's also going to contain other information, possibly the service, as far as the material that it's made up of. So you would have had to make a new filter for every single service name, regardless of material. Now, with this, I can say, with my PCWR, I can filter by, let's go down here first. I have to set my category. We're doing MEP fabrication pipe work. If I hit the plus here, you can see I can make a different filter for my insulation. I'm just going to go, for this example, do them both. Just depending on what your company standards are. I see a lot of the times you might want to make the insulation maybe a gray color and semi-transparent, so that it looks different than the pipe. In this example, I'll just use the using that, it'll both be the same color. So PCWR, applying my category of MEP fabrication pipework. Coming up to my filter by, I have fabrication service and fabrication service name. I believe either one would work just fine here. Fabrication service name contains, again, not wanting to do equals here, because if I did equals, I would have to capture the entire service name. So we're going to say contains, and then it's just as simple as doing PCWR. So any service that contains PCWR, it's going to come in whatever attributes I give this filter. So if we take a quick look back at my AutoCAD, you can see I have all these different services set up. So any service now that contains PCWR, regardless of the material type, it's going to come in with the correct color. It's reducing the number of filters that I need to have by probably, I don't even know, at least by, by 4, times 4, I would imagine. That's just with my default, let alone running jobs. All right. Okay, so now I have that set up. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now notice it's still not in my visibility graphics filters. I have it available to me now. Now I just need to add it, but I have it in my list now. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that into, basically I'm specifically in my mechanical plan view template in filters. Yeah. All right, so once I have that in, I can give it the attributes that I want it to show. Now, there may be a better or easier way to do this. Yeah, so this is what I just went through. If there is, I just haven't found it yet. I did find this really, really nice chart that somebody put out there. So the AutoCAD layer colors uses just a straight linear numbering system, whereas Revit uses RGB values. So what this chart does, and hopefully, yeah, it should, perfect. What this chart does is it actually lets us know what our AutoCAD color is, so we can look at what color in AutoCAD are we using for a certain service, and it gives me my RGB values for that, so I can plug those into Revit. Again, there may be a better way to do this. This is just in my setting this up, I found this to be a very useful tool. So we're going to look at our fabrication side because I want to match up my color exactly to the color that I'm using in AutoCAD. So I'll go ahead and edit my service database. And on my pipe work, I'm using color 93. So if I click on that, you can see it's this nice little kind of green color. So we're going to go use that chart. And by the way, I've uploaded this to the course information. So if you download the PDF, I guess, you'll have the link to that website if you're setting these up. So color 93. So we'll go back into Revit here. And set up our override for our lines. Click on color. And again, I haven't figured out a way just to do the AutoCAD color naming convention here. So using my chart here, 90, is it 92? 93. I've got a RGB value of 126, 189, 126. So I can come back in here. 26, 189, 126. And you can see we ended up with that same green color. So again, that's the way I've been coping with, with this change. So once we have that applied, I can go ahead and click Apply, OK, and still doesn't change, right? Now we have to go in and apply this view, or the view template, to our current views. So to do that, again, once you do this in your template, you're not having to do this over and over and over again. Right-click and apply template properties. We can select multiple using Shift or Control. So if I wanted to, even include that with my, that was function. With my 3D view, right-click, apply view template. We modified my mechanical plan. Go ahead and apply that, and our pipe changes to the green. So let me turn on, oh yeah, it's already on. So then if I go to my 3D view, that should be that same color. But that part might not be best practices. Just for this example, though, displaying my plan views the same way that I do my 3D view, that may not be what you'll want to do, but you can apply it to multiple views at a time. So again, once you do this in your template, yeah.
Will those colors transfer over to Navisworks?
You know what? I haven't tried it from Revit yet. Yeah.
You have to apply material to get it if it's a Revit family.
If it's a Revit family, yeah, but fabrication part.
That's the only way to get it over as a material.
Yeah, right. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Similar in Navisworks where you set up search sets and override the color in Navisworks, kind of a pain in the butt.
Well, perfect. Actually, yeah, we ended up a little bit, 10, 15 minutes left. So questions? Yes?
Using the RTE file for your template, can you set up work sets in that?
Well, okay. No, that's okay. Absolutely. So setting up my template, right, to get all that standard stuff in there, and then opening that template up as a project, right, for actually using that.
We don't use an RTE file for our start file. We use an RVT file.
You do?
It has all of this information stored in it. But
Got it.
allows you to create work sets for them.
Understood.
You don't have to keep doing them over and over again.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. So yeah, I was using an RTE file, the Revit template. So yeah, actually it was referenced this morning as well. Why not use a Revit project as your template? Because I can load in my Revit project, or load in everything that I've done here into my Revit project, plus a few other things, work sets. So if you're work sharing, that's something to consider. If you're not, then RTE might be a lighter way to go. Just depends. But yeah, that's a great point. Any other questions? Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned about pulling parameters in your labels from the ITM parts, the fabrication parts.
Yep.
Are you able to add custom parameters to ITM?
So there is some opportunity there through the API. Yeah, I was talking to Martin about this a while back. He didn't give any specifics, but he said there should be opportunity there. Also, Kevin mentioned the opportunity through the API and shared parameters to pull that information through. Yep. All right. Well, any other questions? Certainly feel free. We still got a little bit of time. Otherwise, filling out the class survey. And I just want to thank you all for choosing this class. Hopefully, you'll be able to use this information. Thanks.